I'm writing to you in the hope that you might be interested in my story. I have always lived in constant fear that someone might discover my secret. This has affected my life in so many ways. I was born in Rugeley. Well, no, actually I was born in Lichfield, but grew up in Rugeley in Staffordshire. A tiny village when I was first born, and I'm the youngest of 5 children. My early childhood, my very early childhood, was really quite a happy one. I mean, Dad was a wonderful man and Mum, everything seemed great. She was quite devoted. But then one day, and this has always stuck in my memory, as a child I was stopped in the street by a girl I was at school with. She said, "My mother saw your mother with another man on a bus." But I just knew then. I knew they were having an affair, and he used to come round to the house a lot. It was really quite upsetting. The family started to fall apart. Meals weren't cooked on time, clothes weren't washed, the house was a mess. I felt like she'd already gone. I mean, she did go eventually, but she'd gone before she left, really. She lost interest in us. I started pulling my hair out before she'd left. I think I just was a very unhappy young lady. To begin with, I was very aware that I was doing it. And I remember my sister married and I went away with her in-laws up to Scotland. And that's when it really started. I would sit at night plucking out my hair just around here to begin with, and I'd roll it up into balls and stuff it under the pillow. And I did have beautiful hair as a child, very thick hair. And that was how it began, and really it went on from there. I just don't know why I did it. Obviously, I got something from it. But I've found out since that you do produce, I don't know whether it's endorphins or dopamine when you do this. But yeah, and to begin with, I started around the temples, then moved over to the top. But at that point, I didn't know that in doing that, eventually you'd destroy the hair follicles and it would never grow back. I was taken to see the family doctor and he referred me to a dermatologist, and he was just awful. I mean, he just said, "Why do you do it?" Doctors didn't know how to talk to children in those days, and you just think, well, if I knew why I did it, I wouldn't be here. I could never admit to it either. That's the problem. That's one of the things about this condition. You just don't want anyone to know that this is what you're doing. So I didn't get a lot of help there. I would never go to the doctors. I hated going to the doctors because of the way you were treated. I thought I was the only person that did this, and it has a really devastating effect on you. I don't know why it makes you feel dirty, and you're so afraid that if people find out, they'll think you're unclean and somehow not want to associate with you. And unfortunately, my name was Bald. When I was little, and especially having a name like Bald, you'd be taunted by other kids, called Baldy, people shouting across the road at you, names and things. And people would say to me, "Why don't you wear a wig?" My sister especially always used to get on to me. But you just think, I've done this to myself. I have to suffer with what I've done. By the time I got to the secondary school, it was quite bad, and most of my hair had gone by then. And I can remember being lined up in the school playground and they were calling out the names for the classes. And when my name was called out, One of the gym teachers said, she is an all, yeah. So, and I heard it, and I think a lot of other people did. And I just couldn't stand him from that day on. I don't think people realised what I was doing, no. And it's not something you admit to readily. You feel like you're constantly operating on a different level to everyone else. You know, they're up here and you're down there. You lose your self-esteem, and also you lose some of your rights. I remember once when the boys were tiny, we went to the hospital because Ben had to have a minor operation. We were standing round with Barney, and there were other parents standing by their children's beds, and this doctor said in a very loud voice, "Do you pull out your hair?" Just like that. And I just wanted to crawl under the bed. I feel that he'd stripped away every ounce of dignity I had. You just feel like a second-class citizen, especially when it came to healthcare. And you feel like you're the only person that does this. I didn't even know there was a name for it. When I was young and when this started, not many people had chemotherapy. So female hair loss wasn't a thing that many people had come across. As more and more people started to have chemotherapy, things changed, and I used to feel dreadful because people would start to feel very sorry for me. And that I found so difficult. I found that worse than being called names, because I just used to think, I don't deserve their sympathy. They would come up with, "Oh, you know, you poor thing." I used to think I did this. I tried really hard, never to lie about it. I would say it's stress, which in a way it was. I used to have nightmares. I used to dream that I'd murdered someone, and I'm sure it was the guilt. And the dream was so real. I would have this body in a pond, and I'd just keep trying to sink it. But as much as I tried to make it sink, it would come back up to the surface. I would wake up exhausted. It was like I'd really done it. This condition has caused me to suffer a lot from depression all through my life, and I overeat, drink too much, put on weight. Paul has always been great. He's been a fantastic support, and I know he just loves me as I am. Unfortunately, in 2008, I realised Paul had told someone. I wasn't very happy about that at all. He did say, "Look, it doesn't matter." But to me, it mattered a lot. Again, this fear came back, this dreadful, dreadful fear that people would find out. I went to see this hypnotherapist, and I felt safe, so I felt like I was able to tell him, to talk about it, you know, I mean, and his reaction, that he just said, "Don't worry, I've seen other people with this," and he gave me a name for it, you know, and it's called Trichotillomania, which we call now TTM for short, and I just couldn't believe his reaction. I expected him to be horrified. It was first diagnosed over 100 years ago, and it was given its name, I think. Tricha is hair, tilla is to pull, and mania madness, so hair pulling madness. I realised there were lots of women out there in my position, and the thing is, women of my age who didn't get help, and they all said the same thing. I mean, it just upset me so much that they felt dirty, that they couldn't talk about it to anyone, that they felt alone. And I mean, for days I just kept pacing up and down the house saying to Paul, 47 years, you know, I hadn't even told my children this. I mean, I'd grown up, I couldn't look in mirrors, I couldn't watch hair shampoo adverts on TV, made me cringe. And I kept this secret, and I kept saying, I've wasted 47 years of my life, and I felt like I exploded inside, like it had all been fermenting away. And then I decided I was going to tell people. And I think we have lovely friends, and they in turn would know lovely people. And whoever I told them to tell people. That way, when it got down to the news had spread and it got down to the real gossips, it would be old news. It would be yesterday's news. They would get no satisfaction from talking about it to everyone. Instead of people rejecting me, which I had feared for all those years, I got hugs and, it was just amazing. I just wish I'd done it sooner. If any parent finds their child doing this, please don't make a big issue of it. I just don't know why, but people feel ashamed of it. And I would suggest as a parent, don't drag your child along to the doctors. Go and see the doctor first on your own and talk about it, and make sure that that doctor will be sympathetic and responsive to that child. If you're a child suffering from it, you need to talk about it. There are people these days who will help you, and you need to go to someone to get help. And if your parents are, very reactionary and get very upset, then find someone you can talk to about it, because you do need help, and there are people there who can help you, because you don't want to end up like me. You need to get help as soon as possible before it becomes a learned way of dealing with stress. It usually affects children around about puberty, so if you can catch them as early as possible, once they reach adolescence, the chances of recovery diminish greatly. So if you can help a child in the beginning, then that's better. There are things you can do. You can have patches put on, but hair patches that cover it up and stop you getting at that patch, so it'll help help the hair to grow. But anyone who's got a bad habit will just move on to a different patch. I've never worn a wig, because what would happen if it came off in public? I want people to know me as I am. How can you have a relationship if you have no hair and you wear a wig? At what point do you tell the person that you've met you have no hair? It's really tricky. The answer is to try and get help so that you don't end up like I am now. I mean, my hair will never grow back. I've pulled my hair so much that I've destroyed the hair follicles. That's something else that annoys me. I was never told that as a child, that eventually they would die. Whether, if I'd been told that, I would have stopped, I just don't know. When you think at one time anorexia was considered, awful, and people are more accepting of that now. And hopefully one day people will be the same about trichotillomania.